We go to Zimbabwe now, where ZANU PF legislator and former minister has resigned from the governing party, saying the Zimbabwe Defence Force staged a coup last November and unconstitutionally overthrew former President Robert Mugabe. Ambrose Mutineri tendered his resignation to the Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Muzenda, on Friday, citing illegal replacement of Mugabe with Emmerson Mnangagwa by the ZDF through a military coup on the 15th of November 2017. Now, the letter was also copied to the ZANU PF Secretary for Administration, Orbit Mpofu. A retired Brigadier General, Mutineri, said that pursuant to the coup, ZANU PF, the government and the state institutions had been captured by the military, which was a violation of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Staying in Zimbabwe, opposition leader for MDCT, that's Nelson Chamisa, has extended an olive branch to his vice president, Thokozani Khupe, following Sunday's violent clashes in Bulawayo, where more than 10 people were injured. Khupe, who boycotted a rally addressed by Chamisa, says she is the legitimate caretaker leader because she was elected by Congress and she does not recognize Chamisa, who was elected by the National Council, the highest decision-making body between the Congresses. But Chamisa took to social media to say Khupe is more than a vice president, saying she was a sister and a friend in the MDCT family. What do you make of all this that's happening in Zimbabwe? Would love to hear what you think. Our Twitter handle at ANN7TV. You can use the hashtag Africa Tonight. For now, though, joining me in studio to discuss this further is Tino Mambeo. He's a social political commentator. Tino, welcome back to Africa Tonight. What do you make of what is happening in Zimbabwe? We'll start off with Mutineri, who all of a sudden has a conscience, who was part of the dispensation when it happened from the 15th of November, when Mnangagwa was the president designate, up until now. He was a part of that administration. All of a sudden, he has this conscience. What do we make of it?
Thank you, Audrey, for having me, and good evening to your viewers. I think one thing that stands out on this character by the name Mutineri. Mutineri, to give you a bit of a background, superintendent of the killings in Marondera in 2008. He is a character that was mostly feared, during the election campaigns. And he has no good name to himself, apart from being a brigadier. So we are equally surprised and astounded that at this moment in time, he wants to find himself saying that the march that was done by the people of Zimbabwe was unconstitutional. He was there since 15 November, as we have said, and I wonder why he never tendered his resignation during that time. But what you must remember is that this man wanted to be made the vice president on the account of him being a former Zipra cadre. So when the vice president was taken by Kembo Mohadi, he felt betrayed by the system. But what I should also emphasize is that the fall of President Mugabe, who was not just a mere book dictator, but he was a dictator that went beyond the real meaning of the word. And what we are seeing now is aftershocks of an earthquake of his fall. So instead of him going down into the history books as a failure, he wants now to try and resurrect his fallen political career by coming back to cause alarm and despondency. I think he is the one person that signed the resignation letter, which was read in Parliament, and he resigned willingly. And now for them to be coming up with such allegations of...
So we have seen pictures of Mutineri himself with the former President Robert Mugabe. Yes. Apparently he's been visiting him at the Blue Roof House. There's talk of this new party, which is a remake of the expelled G40 party. We've seen, I think, Jonathan Moyo congratulating Mutineri, saying, you've done the right thing. Yes. Apparently Mugabe has endorsed this party as well, National Patriotic Front Party. He's supposed to be leading this party from reports that are coming out, I think also confirmed by a media release that the NFP party made a few days ago.
Yes, of course. Mugabe now tries to resurrect his political career, as I have alluded to.
At 94 years old.
At 94. Here is a man who had the
Could we say perhaps the wife is behind this?
The wife was supposed to be the president in December. She failed because the people of Zimbabwe moved against that motion. And now he's trying to resuscitate his career. But one thing that stands out here is that Mugabe himself, he has got 21 farms to his name. And we are going to take those farms because we need to distribute land in a proper manner. And the reason he is forming all these political parties is to try and keep hold on those ill-gotten farms where the majority of people in Zimbabwe have got no land. And we also look at the constitutional challenge which was done by the Liberal Democrats and some so-called activists in Zimbabwe, where they challenged the authority of the current government in describing it as a junta-led government. I think all those are spasmodic kicks of a dying horse. Mugabe is advised at this particular moment
in time. No pun
in time.
intended, I hope.
Of course, I do not intend to cause any harm.
Yes, let's just quickly wrap that up, Tino, because I want us to touch on the violent turmoil that we're seeing in the opposition party MDC-T as Zimbabwe is approaching the polls. Yes. Chamisa seems to be extending an olive branch to Thokozani Khupe, who seems to not be wanting to hear any of it. She maintains she is the leader of the acting president of the MDC-T. One
of the biggest problems that we find with our politicians, especially in Africa, is they do not understand that each and everything has got its own end. Like gambling, you always have got to know when to stop. So what I see is that Madam Khupe does not know when to stop, especially in politics. She is there in her own field and she's there in her own imagination. She thinks she has got the support of the people. But unfortunately, we bemoan the incidences of violence that have rocked her presence in Bulawayo and in Buyera. But what we want to find out is who is behind the violence and who stands to benefit most. I do not think Nelson Chamisa, in his personal capacity, is behind that kind of violence. I think these are skirmishes that are being done by people who have got an agenda to undermine his presidency that he has taken in a proper and constitutional way.
Do you think a breakaway is imminent at this point? Are we likely to see MDC-T and MDC-K, so to speak, going forward?
Remember, when the MDC is going into elections, this time is going into elections as the MDC Alliance. Right. So what I think Khupe is going to do, she's going to go in as the candidate of the MDC-T, but she also has the opportunity to team up with Joyce Mujuru in the PRC. So in terms of the MDC-T, she might say I'm MDC-T leader and probably go to court on that. But as for Nelson Chamisa, he's going as the alliance candidate. And there's no MDC-T when we go into the thing.
The
it's going to be
an
alliance candidate, yes.
Do you think this moves to strengthen the alliance or to weaken it?
Well, the alliance is already very strong, and there are only two political parties of note in Zimbabwe, which is ZANU MP led by Comrade Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa's MDC Alliance. Also, these are the parties that people should look out for. The rest are the just side shows, probably in a democratic space. Each and everyone is allowed to do whatever they want. But this is a very interesting time for Zimbabweans. This is the first since the coming of colonization, the coming of Cecil John Rhodes, where we have got two progressive candidates that are going to be on the ballot. I think it's a win for the people of Zimbabwe.
But just very quickly, Tino, do you think Chamisa is doing enough to curtail this violence that we're seeing within the MDC-T?
I think he has done enough, but there are elements that are bent on tarnishing his name, and I would not be surprised to find out that those people are sent by these very people that claim to be victims of the violence.
Right. We'll have to leave it there. Tino Mambeo, thank you so much for your insight. Certainly appreciate it. We'll do this again soon. And you're at home for joining in the conversation. Thank you so very much. Africa Tonight will take a very short break. Thereafter, we have more news coming right up a little later on. We have on the show an artist from Nigeria. He is a sensation, is giving you some of the best hits on the continent. Dr. Seed is in studio. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Africa Tonight. Thank you for staying with us. And for some African entertainment news, this week we have Dr. Sid. He's a Nigerian artist. He is in town. Not only that, he's in studio and he is back from Big Brother Nigeria. We have him here in ANN7 Studios and we'll be talking to him in just a bit. For now, the United States Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, will travel to Africa this week in a week-long tour covering 4 countries. During his visit, Tillerson will hold meetings with heads of state of Chad, Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti and Nigeria. While in Ethiopia, the top US diplomat will meet the leadership of the African Union. Rex Tillerson's trip to Africa, the first since the election of Donald Trump just over a year ago, will lay out US policy for Africa. A statement from the State Department says he will discuss, among other things, counterterrorism, peace and security, good governance, as well as trade and investment. Now, all the nations he will visit are on the front line as America's partners in the fight against terrorism. And back home in South Africa, the Department of Social Development will go ahead with the repatriation of 8 children from Zimbabwe. This after the North Gauteng High Court dismissed an application to interdict the transfer of the children. In his ruling, Judge Bill Prinsloo found it suspicious that the children had been traveling without their parents or any documentation. The applicants claiming to be parents of the children also failed to provide additional documentation as requested by the court. Their lawyers say not releasing the children into their parents' care would be in breach of the Immigration Act. Now, the undocumented Zimbabwean children have been held since mid-November of last year.
Are seeking an interdict to prohibit the respondents from not following the law as it stands. We're saying follow the law. We're not asking for anything else but for the respondents to follow the law, because it's our submission they have not. Put crisply, the applicants do not have to prove that they are the parents before bringing this application to court. They don't have to do that. All the applicants need to do to bring any application, and this refers to any applicant in similar circumstances, is show that they are interested parties in the relief sought.
Now back to the story I've been promising you from before the break. Sydney Onoriode Esiri, commonly known as Dr. Sid, and he's nodding in approval that I pronounced his name right, is a Nigerian singer-songwriter. He's also a dentist. Yes, you heard right. He's also a dentist. He has been in the industry for over a decade, 13 years to be specific. And Dr. Sid of Surilele fame and most recently Open and Close joins me in studio. Dr. Sid, welcome.
I'm happy to be here. I'm really excited. You were impressive on the nose.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Did you have any practice, be honest?
I'm impressed. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that. Look, you performed at Big Brother just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Tell me, how was that experience for you?
I mean, it was awesome. You know, the last time I did Big Brother was about 9 years ago. And to come back and be on the same stage and perform for the live eviction show was awesome. It's always a nice experience to perform in front of such a wide audience, because the viewership is crazy. There's over 75 million people watching across the continent. So, would
you ever think of being a contestant at any point?
I did.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
And what happened?
I got married.
Can trust marriage to just put everything else aside. Look, you have a beautiful family, I'm sure. You had a daughter recently, a couple of years ago. How is she doing?
She's awesome. She's extremely intelligent. She keeps me in check. She started asking me big questions and
big girl questions.
Yes, big girl questions. And you know, when you have a child, it kind of puts your life in perspective. Your priorities change, and you understand that if you're playing around and jumping around, now you need to focus in. Whatever you do is leave a legacy for that child, and if there are more children. And
focusing is what you've been doing on your art, on your craft. Yes. You've been in the industry for over a decade now. How do you maintain this longevity? I want us to talk about Open and Close after this, but just tell us how you've managed to do this, the ups and downs, how you've dealt with them.
I thought one of the most important things is having a great team around you. If you have a great team around you that believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself, they constantly push you and keep you moving forward. Right. Another thing is consistency. And always believing that you have something to learn and somewhere to go. Because once you believe you've arrived at the peak, the only way to go is down.
Okay. So the director is busy playing Surele in my ear right now, and it's hard for me to concentrate. I'm a huge fan of that song.
Thank you.
You are into, what do they call it? Dance music? I don't know. I don't have the term right. But it appears you're inclined to that a lot. It works for you because, you know, all your songs, you know, they get you nodding your head and, you know, they get you dancing and, you know, all sorts of things. Was this intentional?
I think for me, I'm a happy person. If people know me, I'm always smiling. And I think whatever gets people happy and gives you joy, and you know, my job as a musician and an artist is to take you away from your problems, even if it's just a split second, to give you a moment of relief, a moment of happiness, and just to get you to uplift your spirits. And you know, if I try to make music that does that every single time.
Okay, let's talk about Open and Close. I was just watching the video, you know, just before I came on air, and I think the first words that come out are, if one door opens, another one closes.
It's like,
is that speaking directly to your life, or is it just in general, the message that you're speaking to?
No, the idea was just looking at it like, Surulere is a reflection of my life at some point, you know, because I was down, things were difficult, and I just believe that, because Surulere means patience has rewards. So if you're patient and you're hardworking, you will definitely reap the rewards. So Open and Close, you know, career took a dip a little bit, you know, but we came back up and we thought that in life, when one door closes, another one opens. So if you think that the path you're going through is blocked, there's always another way to get to where you need to be. And that was the idea behind the song Open and Close. So when one door closes, another one opens, because that's how life is.
Yes.
Close,
and how's the
open.
door with the door with Marvin Records right now? Are you enjoying
that is awesome. The more doors opening, like the reason why the music took a slow down a little bit was because I took a more executive role behind the scenes, because we had signed some new artists, and we needed the label needed my experience in grooming and putting out the music and planning. And I've also been given a role to head the film department, so I pretty much am the president of Maven Films.
Oh my goodness.
So,
so you're branching out.
Exactly.
It's all about versatility. You're behind the scenes as well. Are you directing?
Yes, I'm directing.
I know your dad was. How do you feel every time someone brings out your dad? I'm sure you have channeled your own niche. You know, you've made your own name, but your dad, you know, he was a huge name in the acting industry, and you know that is always brought up in interviews, just like I've done right now.
You know,
does it get to you in any way? No.
I mean, I'm honored. You know, he's late now, so you know, I understand he's got like big shoes to fill, because he created a name at a time when there was no social media. It wasn't that easy to be recognized.
Oh, now it's so easy.
You had to work hard and build a legacy, you know, and I appreciate that, and I've learned so much from him and his life. And I apply that to myself now, to be grounded, to be professional, and to be focused, and to focus on leaving a legacy for my children, so they can look at me and say, Granddaddy was a big star, Daddy was a big star, you know, I might be the same.
Okay. So what's next? Is Open and Close part of an album that you're releasing? Or is it just a single that you put out there? Because I try to look for the video. It's not online yet. But just the audio is you know, it's quirky, it's fun, it's encouraging, but you know, it's a happy groove as well.
Open and Close is a single for now. We're trying to decide whether we want to put out an album or an EP, because we have a body of work. But you know, the trend of music is changing from an album culture to a more single culture, because the attention span of listeners is kind of reducing. And so we want to be on trend with the way we release our music. So for now, Open and Close is a single, and the video will be ready in about 2 weeks, because I'm directing it myself.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Do you feel you have any pressure to surpass what you've done with Surulere?
Oh, yes. I don't really call it pressure. I call it encouragement, because Surulere was such a big song, and I've had a lot of big songs in the past. And that's the gift and the curse of success. When you do something, the expectations from you are higher. So, you know, you try your best to live up to the expectations, but what I believe is nothing is ever a failure. If it doesn't do as well, it has its place in the progress of my life and where I'm heading to.
Yeah, let's talk about progression. How long are you in SA for? Do you plan on any gigs back here? And what's your projection going forward for this year?
You know, for me, I'm in SA for a few more days. We're just trying to collaborate with some more African artists, because what I believe is I think Africa needs to collaborate more.
I will disagree with you. I remember reading an article from your interview that you said you're not so huge on international collaborations, or perhaps you're speaking of artists that are outside of the continent, not necessarily African artists.
When I mean international collaborations, I mean I see Africa as one people. Do you know what I mean? So I don't I say we're one big nation, but people say that's not politically correct. But I feel, in terms of the unity of the African continent, I feel we need to collaborate more with ourselves, because we all make African music. and we need to export African music, not Nigerian, not South African, not Kenyan, not Zimbabwe, African music to the world, because everyone's coming in now, and if we are divided, they'll pick us apart.
Yeah.
But we need to unify as a continent, collaborate more, share markets, share knowledge, share fan bases, share our knowledge, and be unified as a continent to take on the world. Because America, Europe, Asia, they all have a consolidated market, which we don't have. And I think that's my aim, to build that.
Why do you think you have been so successful? And just looking at the bigger picture, Nigerian music has penetrated everywhere on the continent, and it has been so successful. You have people that listen to Nigerian music that don't even know what it means. I didn't know what Surere means until you explained it to me. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It just sounds good. Why do you think this has happened?
I think there's a particular drive and hunger that comes with Nigerians in general.
Yeah.
Most times for positive, or sometimes for negative, you know. But there's a drive that comes with Nigerians, and we apply it to our music. We're very tenacious. We're loud. We make a lot of noise. We make sure that you listen.
Yeah.
And we try to work hard to make sure that the music is also appealing as well. So it is something that we pride ourselves on when it's for good things. You know what I mean? We just want to make sure that we get the music out there and involve everyone in our progress.
Okay, so just very quickly before we wrap up, you're going to be doing music, you're going to be directing. What else are you going to be doing? What else are you
Probably making another baby.
Is your wife aware of this?
Not yet. Don't tell her I said so.
Now. She's watching now, she knows. But look, I'm sure it'll be a beautiful production like your previous one. So all the best with that. We hope we'll be seeing a lot of you, not only on Africa Tonight, but on the international stage, on the African stage. And yeah, all the best.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming through. Dr. Sid is around. And of course, if you want to know all about him, you can go on his website and his YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that, following him on Twitter. Dr. I am Sid, that is Twitter handle. And of course, you'll find all the latest details with regards to what he's getting up to, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And it's a wrap from myself and the Africa Tonight team. Thank you for watching the program. Asante sana.